In my previous video, I talked about Below Natural's leak of the uncut footage from Act 3 in the Lunar Overture event, which was never released to the public until now. So, a lot of people had some questions for Below Natural, and I never covered them in the previous video, but I'm going to cover them now, starting off with these cutscenes being canon. Now, Below Natural did mention after the videos were posted that these events were not canon anymore. However, some people, I guess, didn't realise this, or this was before Below Natural mentioned it. So, Below Natural said no, these are not canon since they were never released. If an internal event never took place, it would have been released alongside a proper Act 3. I guess from this, if Below Natural saying that if the cutscenes were never in place, it would have been released alongside Act 3. But because Act 3 was like kind of rushed, it was never released, therefore it's not canon anymore. I guess we'll just have to see what could have been, which would have made the current events make much more sense. Years later, we're still trying to write lore to fill out the major gap left by the Lunar Overture cutscene. I think most people would be actually satisfied by having like a Lunar Overture Remontada event, which just fills in this entire cutscene with that bit that Below Natural speak to us in the previous video. However, some people said that next time, please don't rush. We need peak and peak need time. Okay. Below Natural said, unfortunately, we did not have any choice and just needed something to get out. That is true. I don't know if you recalled right, but initially, the Lunar Overture event was meant to be released a week before this. However, when the developers delayed this update by a week for balancing reasons, but also trying to get the cutscenes to work out, they did not have any time. And in fact, the game still wasn't balanced. In fact, a lot of people found it the only way to beat it was to use a sledger glitch or a freezer glitch, which froze enemies permanently before they targeted the hands. It was very clear that the event itself was very rushed due to internal pressures. However, yes, the developers, we didn't give them enough time because this was a Halloween event and this was released in mid-October. It's just that the developers did not have time, and also there was a lucrative Christmas event coming up for the Violent Night event, hence why the developers had to rush it, and hence why it was left unfinished, and hence why we didn't get any cutscenes. Additionally, the narrator in the Lunar Overture event didn't have any voice lines, again, likely because there wasn't enough time to actually code them into the game. Both Act 1 and Act 2 did have voice lines for the narrator, but Act 3 did not. We'll have to assume either voice lines do exist and Thrallist does have us on his computer, or Below Natural just made up the voice lines for the narrator as Act 3 was being released, hence why I don't think any of it, well, some of it does make sense in the context of the event, but if you combine it with the cutscenes, maybe not. Also, Below Natural does mention that our team was sabotaged mid-update, losing us almost a whole week of development time. Now, I'm not a drama alert channel. I don't get into drama when necessary, right? This is not a necessary drama for me. However, a lot of people have assumed who this saboteur was and what the nature of this sabotage is. I cannot comment. I refuse to comment. It's like I'm at the US border already. Like, I refuse to comment on any belongings whatsoever. That duck over there, that's not a duck. It ends soon anyway, so it can't be a duck. Speculation is rife when it comes to the mid-sabotage by the development team. And that's all I can say. That's what Below Natural has officially stated. I'm just reiterating what Below Natural said. I'm not going to any of the speculation whatsoever. You guys can do that, not me. Next, Below Natural says, RIP Titus, can someone revive bro please? This was on the 3rd of June. This was like after, what was it, the first leaks? No, before the first leaks actually. That was an hour before that. So firstly, it officially confirms Titus has died. After we defeat his corrupted version, yeah, he's officially dead. Below Natural also mentions that we'll probably bring him back as a gag joke. So, Titus might be coming back as a joked version of himself, like, I don't know, something similar to Skivvy Toiler or something similar to the Imposter. I don't know, maybe it's April Fools. I'm just thinking April Fools. Someone also brings up the fact that Halloween or Solar Overture event is going to stay in the game, likely as campaign prologue. Once I actually get back to finishing the cutscenes, that is either that's probably Profine. The person who made the voice lines and the actor stuff, that is Enthrallist. The person who makes the cutscenes, I think, is Profine. He was just speculating that it was going to be staying in the game as part of campaign prologue. However, Below Natural says no, that's not happening. Lunar Overture is not coming back. None of the things leaked is going to be canon in Tower Defense Simulator. Below Natural further clarifies this, saying Lunar Overture was a retelling of Umbria's past, all the Halloween events, and Umbria's involvement from the cutscene, and was going to be a retelling of Solar Eclipse. It wouldn't make sense to retell a retelling. So yes, it seems like Lunar Overture dead and buried. Which makes sense if you look at the events. Hexscape has nothing really to do with Umbria. Yes, there's the God Cube involved in it, but as we'll see later, the God Cube, even though it is resolved by Penumbris in this update, or these cutscenes that we saw, it's not really. In fact, I'm going to clarify it now. Below Natural says the entirety of Act 3 is not canon. Since Umbria made contact with the cube, it still remains fragmented. And because Penumbris never came back to reassemble the entire God Cube again, it means it is still fragmented, meaning that in terms of the Hexscape event, its lore actually makes sense now, because the God Cube fragments are still around somewhere, because Penumbris never came back to like reassemble it. It makes sense why this cube here still has a God Cube fragment, and it makes sense why the Primordial Draco Bloxer has a God Cube fragment, and why the Conserver also has a God Cube fragment, and also explains why the Nerd Ducky managed to find a God Cube fragment, because, well, let's see, all this time Penumbris was the force holding us all together. That is largely the story of this video, right? Penumbris is genuinely the force that binds us all together. He's the saviour of all men and all children and all women. And unfortunately, he died to the hand of the hands, ironically enough. And actually, none of that is actually lore. So yes, R.I.P. Penumbris, you lived a good life. Actually, in lore, he's not actually addressed anymore. So what happened to him? Speculation in the comments. But finally, the last thing I want to mention, and it's nothing to do with Act 3, Below Natural has now commented on the fact that Tower Defense Simulator has now been officially endorsed by Roblox. It is now part of their thing, as you can see here on the Roblox App Store page, events, Tower Defense Simulator, with the thumbnail that everyone thought was fake or AI generated. However, not the case, it's now endorsed by Roblox, likely why they made the thumbnail in the first place. Below Natural saying, never imagined I'll be in the App Store, childhood me will be so happy right now. Yes, Below Natural, congratulations. Genuinely, it's quite impressive. However, I would also like to mention the fact that Below Natural also has fingers in another Roblox, I guess, endorsed thing, in the creator hub for Roblox, where for the monetization section, scale design monetization, he is mentioned here. Not really mentioned, but some of the assets in Tower Defense Simulator is seen here. And in fact, it's mentioned as skin in Tower Defense Simulator, militant, ace pilot. Of all the things to reference in the creator hub in in Roblox, it is the ace pilot skin, which in my eyes is slightly copyrightable content. I don't know. It's mentioned here as purchasable items that can be divided into two categories. Durable items, items that can be used and applied in an unlimited amount of time, such as cosmetic skins, skin in Tower Defense Simulator, and consumable items. This isn't Tower Defense Simulator, this is from a game called Evade. Does lead me to question though, are there going to be other stuff that in Roblox uses for their official documentation that's related to Tower Defense Simulator? Because as we've seen with the Walmart's endorsement and the App Store endorsement and now this, yeah, Tower Defense Simulator seems to be having to be endorsed by Roblox and is being used for their marketing. I can imagine little old Below Natural would be so gassed at this, knowing that at the age of like 13, 14, some of his products would be used for official Roblox stuff. I find that to be very, very cool. Other people, probably not so much. I just probably mentioned this because someone on my Discord mentioned it as seen here, but I think that's very cool. Thank you very much. In fact, from what I can tell, Tower Defense Simulator is on like the main page for Roblox. It's the main advertisement for Roblox, saying here, Roblox take on Tower Defense, and it's the first thing seen here. And alongside like Brawl Stars, Brawl Stars is like another game that's not made by Roblox whatsoever. I mean, obviously it's not made by Roblox, but it's kind of cool to see Tower Defense Simulator being advertised as like one of the main games in Roblox. However, you may notice this, but because Roblox aren't allowed to advertise firearms on the storefront, you can see this version of the thumbnail doesn't have any firearms whatsoever. So the commander is meant to hold a gun here, doesn't have one. The scout is meant to hold a gun here, doesn't have one either. The accelerator is meant to have like a plasma gun, doesn't have it here. The shotgunner looks kind of weird here. I mean, it looks kind of faded as well, but it doesn't have a gun here. Neither does the minigunner have a gun. Yes, Roblox aren't allowed to advertise firearms because it is technically a child's game, hence why Tower Defense Simulator have had to remove all of their guns from the thumbnail. Except the version that Below Natural shows off here has guns. So I think it may be a restriction thing. Like if you're under a certain age, like I'm going to say 18, just so I don't incriminate this person who's showed this off here, you are not allowed to be shown guns, but Below Natural being over 18, and I assume his app store is for over 18s, as you can see here, guns and everything. But also, it's quick to mention, Roblox is mentioned as 12+. I actually don't know what Roblox goes for in the app store. I think it should be 12+. I'm not entirely sure. It just says second in adventure. It doesn't have any app ratings, but my version seen here does actually have Tower Defense Simulator with guns. I think it's because I'm actually logged into my Apple account into here. No, I'm not logged into my Apple account. So yes, this version that I see here does have a gun, but this the version that's seen by this person here doesn't have a gun. I am interested now, actually, why this person doesn't have a gun. Maybe it's because his account is listed as a child? That's really the only reason why I can see this being a discrepancy. But yes, maybe you've outed yourself, random person, just something that I observed.